Welcome back for another video. We're back to a Saturday deadline for Gameweek 10, so let's run through how the team's lining up this week and transfer plans. Starting off with a review of last game week. 77 points all out, so it's a really good game week after a really dire game week the week before. Immediate returns from the transfers with Vardy and Palmer coming into the team. Though in reality I actually could have kept Saka, who in the end did start and he did score, so only a point gained from that switch, but 8 gained from Vardy. The original plan was to get Palmer in Gameweek 12, which evidently was a sound strategy after Saka's goal, but obviously that uncertainty over him making the squad or not, and the usual unclear answer from Arteta forced my hand early there. It would have been Semenyo's 1 point off the bench had he missed out, so the plan is to get Saka back in later now. Lastly, I went through the triple captaincy. No blank from Haaland, but 6 points quite disappointing. 2.11 expected goals registered, which was literally the second most he's ever produced in a Premier League match. He missed 3 big chances. I can't help but think it was a good decision based on those numbers, but an unlucky outcome. In any previous season, don't get me wrong, I would never have triple captain in a single game week, but with just the 2 expected double game weeks to come later this season, I think it's going to be 2 of the bench boost free hit or mystery chip that get used in those doubles. So I think we're going to continue to see lots of single game week triple captaincies as the season draws on. Plenty more opportunities to come if you still got yours. It's also worth pointing out that actually saving it for a double game week's fine as well, because there could be single game week opportunities to bench boost or perhaps free hit, or maybe even the mystery chip. So returns from Lewis, Vardy, Palmer and Bumo, Wood and Haaland all made for a decent game week all in all. Let's have a quick look at your highs and lows of last game week sent in. Carroll absolutely nailed it last game week. He said Visser, Palmer, Dina and Aït-Nouri were all transferred in and they all returned. Finished on 93 points, which was a green arrow to inside the top 50k. Ardy took a -4, which paid off spectacularly. Havertz, Maddison and Gabriel out for Wood, Palmer and Lewis, resulting in a net gain of 20 points. He's moved up to 11k overall. Kieran also rewarded, took a -8 to sell Havertz, Szoboszlai and Gabriel for Visser, Palmer and Aït-Nouri, which was a net gain of 14 points. A nice reminder that hits can absolutely pay off. Though Ren's hits didn't go as well, he took a -8 to swap Diaz and Saka to Son and Foden. Son didn't end up playing and Foden blanked, while Diaz started and got an assist, and then Saka was fit to start and he scored, 24-point swing. Harry, with a great team on paper, finished on just 44 points, which was a red arrow, he says, from 1.2 mil to 2 mil. Blanks from Raya, Trent, Gabriel Johnson, Rodgers, Foden, Solanke and Watkins. The lowest score in the top 10k was 27 points, 10 blanks, and then Bumo and Lewis benched oddly. Must have missed the Friday deadline or something. That took them from 10k to 206k. Still well ahead of me, to be fair. And lastly, Aditya says, glad I stayed with Henderson over Flecken, scored 93 points as well. Returns from 10 to start and 11, insane. So let's get on to the next segment, let's get into the team for Game Week 10. In goal, Raya's away to Newcastle. Now he's been a disaster transfer so far, no clean sheets from the last 4 owning him. This one could be a fierce battle after that 1-0 loss away at Newcastle last season, packed with controversy. One surprise last game, it was Fabianski getting the nod over Areola, who was seemingly dropped. It didn't cross my mind to start him as the clean sheet odds still favoured Arsenal over West Ham, who played Man United. In the end they did both concede, though Fabianski did score 3 points. Perhaps he's done enough to keep the spot for now. He just made the one notable mistake for the Dalot chance, but it wasn't punished. So it has crossed my mind whether to start him away at Forest. This game week Arsenal were third in the clean sheet odds though with 34% chance, so basically a 1 in 3 chance there. West Ham have a 23.5% chance, so I'm going to stick with Raya. It's a back 4 this week, which could end up a back 3 dependent on Gabriel. This is how I'm going to line up if Gabriel happens to be fine for Game Week 10. It's Lewis, Pedro Porro, Vardy and Gabriel. Now Pedro Porro has also been a disaster to own as well. He was bought for his good fixtures, but also some insurance against Lewis in case he gets benched. Perhaps this is the week that depth will come in handy if Gabriel misses out. That said, they're home to Villa, who are a tough fixture against anyone on their day. The main concern for me is if Lewis is benched and Gabriel misses out, then I'll be down to 10 players as it stands. I've got Greaves on the bench, who's not back till after the international break. Vardy had one of the most spectacular ends to a season of any defender I can remember last season, so we know what he's capable of. He got returns of 12-6, 15-6, 21, 6 and 2 from the final 7 game weeks, so around 10 points per game. If he can produce even half as much as that, it'll be excellent gains. It's 2 defensive double-ups on Arsenal Man City this week. City are second on the clean sheet probabilities after Liverpool, given a 36% chance. I suppose the other point of Vardy is I just need him to match or outscore Trent, who's obviously a huge threat over the next 3 not owning him. As it stands, he's 8 points ahead since making that switch to fund Palmer. Let's see how Man City line up in the League Cup. I'm expecting lots of rotation, and a Lewis benching would make me feel a lot better about his starting chances in Game Week 10. I found a couple of reports on Gabriel. First one, positive news for Arsenal, as Gabriel's scans have shown no significant damage to any ligaments. Still some swelling around the knee, so he needs some treatment. However, positive is nothing too serious. There are also some quotes from Arteta. He said, "We're still assessing him, he doesn't look that bad. It's still early to predict how long he'll be out." That last sentence a bit open for interpretation. I wonder if he misses a game or two, or if Arteta's basically saying he might not even be out for Gameweek 10 and he could just miss a couple of training days. Arsenal and Newcastle are the two worst teams to have injury concerns. I mean, look at this quote from Arteta when he's asked about the injury mind games. He said, "I don't want to make it easy for anyone. The opponent has to make sure they do their homework. I wish I knew their starting 11, who's on the bench, but I don't. I'm not going to lie to you, I'd never do that. But if I don't want to tell you, I will keep you guessing. This is my job." So if we get anything reliable that Gabriel's out for a while, plus we hear that Lewis is benched, I'm going to be looking to make a transfer at the back. More on that in a minute. Onto the midfield, which is Johnson, Palmer and Mbeumo. Johnson's underlying numbers have held steady, while Solanke has been really poor recently. 3.05 expected goal involvement over the last 4 ranks Johnson third among all the midfielders. 14 shots taken, all of which were inside the box. Despite the Spurs blanks, the intention is to keep him for the 2 home games, especially Ipswich home in Gameweek 11, before shifting them on before they face Man City away. Palmer's up to 11 mil now, and I never should have doubted the man from Gameweek 1, having started with Saka and Haaland myself. It was an understandable question mark before the season whether he could actually replicate the unbelievable heights of last season, but so far he absolutely has. He might even be a season keeper now. The next window to possibly sell him might be Gameweek 29 before he's got Arsenal and Spurs around the blanks and doubles. I wonder what we'll see from Man United this Gameweek and beyond. Gameweek 10 is going to come too soon for Amorim, who's expected to be Ten Hag's successor. I think we're all expecting a new manager bounce, and they have got some amazing fixtures, but presumably Van Nistelrooy will fill in first. Palmer gets the vice captaincy this week. Completing the midfield is Mbeumo. I mentioned that Johnson's the third top midfielder for expected goal involvement over the last 4 game weeks. The 2 ahead of him are actually Palmer and Mbeumo, so I've got the right players in place as far as that. The data table here and the other ones from Scout. All my tables are public to anyone in the members area. Link below to join with a discount. So Rodgers is my 4th midfielder. He's much further down this list, 1.54 XGI. Semenyo my 5th with 1.34 XGI over the last 4, but he has had some tough opponents. If Gabriel's out, then Rodgers will come into the starting 11. If Gabriel's fit, then I'd much rather start him for the high upside, as opposed to playing Rodgers versus Pedro Porro, which has got reduced upside basically. Up front it's Wood, Haaland and Solanke. So while Johnson's sustained reasonable numbers over the last 4, Solanke's last good game really was Man United 4 game weeks ago. If we look at the last 3 in isolation, it's really concerning. He's taken just 2 shots, 0.46 XGI, which puts him 22nd among forwards over the last 3. I'd still like to keep him for the next 2, especially that Ipswich game, but if Gabriel's out, I'll be tempted to sacrifice him. More on the transfer plans in a minute. Haaland gets the captaincy this week for the Bournemouth game. We've got the League Cup before Gameweek 10, so my hope, as I say, is that he gets a full rest. Ideally Lewis and Vardy as well. He had a really poor game against Southampton by his usual standards, though his first goal was top class to be fair. My longer term goal is to have a 3 premium setup, so a decision to make which 3. Haaland, Palmer and Saka, or Salah, Palmer and Saka, so basically Haaland versus Salah. I'll be keeping him this week regardless. Wood's been an absolute hero since picking him up on the wildcard with 4 goals in 3 now. Congrats to Rodri on the Ballon d'Or, but Wood was robbed. Wood versus Calvert-Lewin's been a really unlucky swing. Calvert-Lewin's actually taken more shots, and he's got a better XG total as a result, though conversion rate favours Wood, who's undeniably a much better finisher. He's home to West Ham this week, who have kept just 1 clean sheet in 9 games. On the bench is Fabianski, Rodgers, Semenyo and Greaves. I've got just 1 free transfer, 0.5 mil on the bank. Now if Gabriel's out, then I'll start Rodgers instead of him in a 3-4-3. If there's no other issues, then the plan this week is to roll the transfer. I need to pick up a few rolled transfers for a smooth path to get Saka or Salah in Gameweek 12. Although I said I'd like to keep Solanke for the next 2, if Gabriel's out, and if there's news of a Lewis benching, I'll need to make a change to avoid playing 10 men due to Greaves' injury as well. One option I'm looking at in that scenario is Solanke to Cunha and Gabriel to Trent. It looks a bit daft going straight back to Trent the next week, but I would have 5 points profit bank there. And although I'd miss out on Solanke against Ipswich, I'd have Cunha versus Southampton instead, which is equally good that week. I could also just do Gabriel to Konate in that scenario. The hope, however, is just to roll the transfer this week. Hit that subscribe button if you enjoyed the video. There's more FPL content to come before the deadline. See you soon for the next one.